Russia seems to have an answer to the opioid plague that's going on in America. And, Russians' answer to opioid plague, cold turkey. Russia has an opioid abuse problem too, as big as America. Now imagine that. And we don't hear nothing about Russia's opioid plague, but they have one as big as America. And you see how they're dropping like flies around here. But a very different way of dealing with it. No methadone replacement therapy in Moscow. Just a couple of aspirins and a short, sharp withdrawal shock. That's what you get in Russia. See, they're not coddling these people like they are in the US. And the more they coddle them, the more they go bigger with their drug abuse. So, Yulia Morozova knows heroin addiction inside out. Today, she is a clinical psychiatrist helping people with addiction through the final stages of their recovery treatment at the Spalding Center for Practice and Research. Narcology in Southeast Moscow. But a decade or so ago, she was a patient there herself, suffering cold turkey style, Russian style. Russians said, "We ain't giving you shit up in here. You get off of that mess on your own." The 3-week withdrawal process was not easy. Dr. Morozova says now, but everything that's going to be interesting in your life happens after that. In my case, this was the only way. I have been clean for 9 years now. Russia has an opioid addiction plague, about as grave as America. But the two countries' approaches to the problem could hardly be more different. Where most US and European clinics offer patients methadone as replacement therapy, Russia doctors disdain such soft treatment. They calling America's way of treating the opioid addicts here are soft treatment. You're right, Russia. That's why their addiction ain't going no damn where. They acknowledge their method of curing addiction have a lower success rate than the 50% achieved in the US. But some put it as low as 10%, but they do not consider people who rely on methadone to be free from their addiction. That's right, because you're treating addiction with drugs. So really, you're essentially just taking their drug, which is opioids, and replacing it with another form of opioids, which is your methadone, which is, by the way, another opioid. They call that a soft treatment. Okay, so they run a 1,400 bed center in Russia. We call a person's addiction in remission if they are completely drug-free, not otherwise. So addiction treatment, like many other topics these days, has become a field for east-west sniping. Who are you calling liberal? One thing, Black people ain't into that liberal and conservative stuff because y'all, at the end of the day, y'all are pretty much alike. Russian doctors claim that the American plague is the result of liberal attitudes that enact the overprescribing of powerful opioids and painkillers. And they're right, and lax medical approaches. Woo, they are criticizing America, and lax medical approaches that treat heroin addiction with replacement therapy drugs like methadone. Western doctors argue the Russian cold turkey approach to end addiction is a brutal kill or cure solution that ignores the scientific evidence that replacement drugs can wean people off of their addiction while allowing them to get on with their lives. Russia said, "You are wimps." That's why you need soft therapy in America. Our philosophy is simple. We organize treatment and rehabilitation in a completely drug-free environment. In Russia, it is illegal to use any drugs in treating drug addicts. I kind of understand that. All right, so often ordered by the courts start with a mandatory 21-day withdrawal period when the patient undergoes cold turkey, is kept under close supervision, but given nothing more than aspirin to help weather the experience. Russia go put you in a room and you have to withdraw cold turkey. You complain about pain, they just throw a few aspirins at you. Ooh, man. Americans, are you kidding me? These old wimpy ass Americans, they'll have a meltdown if you did something like that to them. They can't handle that. Russians who suffer through this experience call it the vegetative state, says Morozova. When you know nothing and you are not yourself. I think this is hilarious. These Americans would never, ever make it, y'all. If they had to go cold turkey in a room, these wimpy ass. You look at how they're all acting. It's public health. We can't put no one in jail. Oh, we have to coddle them and we have to get them treatment. We got to put them in drug court and let the judge just coddle them. Oh, you go into treatment now. Okay. This is followed by nearly 3 years of regular visits to the center as an outpatient, and then a final month in its rehabilitation wing, where the rules are so strict that even the strong brew Russian tea. Okay, so they even prohibit tea. They can't even have tea. Chiefer, I guess that's how you pronounce it, is prohibited. So around 720,000 of Russia's 1.5 million citizens with a heroin addiction are currently undergoing such programs. So they don't have a choice. In Russia, when they go to court, it's treatment and you ain't getting shit while you're in there, but a few aspirin. So shut the hell up. That's what. Can you imagine if they had that kind of shit here in America? These people would probably go into hiding. I'm serious. They'd probably be running away all over America and going into hiding. I just think that's hilarious. An Afghanistan heritage. Heroin was unknown in the Soviet Union until its troops invaded Afghanistan. And remember, they lost that war in 1979. Today, as much as 20% of Afghanistan annual opium production makes its way through Central Asia to Russia, flooding its cities with cheap heroin. So they're having the same problem as the US. That history makes the origins and causes of Russia's heroin habit very different from the U.S. experience. Yeah, because the U.S. went over there and raided those fields, where 4 out of 5 new users start out by misusing prescription painkillers. In Russia, that's impossible. You can't obtain opioids in drugstores because there is very strict control. Okay, so there you go. Too strict a control, perhaps. The extreme difficulty of obtaining strong painkillers condemn many patients to excruciating pain, often in the final stage of their life, and some even commit suicide. So they have same thing here, a bunch of junkies and a bunch of suicide freaks running around. All right, so they got 12 steps of tough love in Russia. All right, y'all, let's hear about their 12 steps of tough love. They would never do this in the US. They want to kiss and coddle these people all through the addiction. Okay, let's see. He argues that the replacement therapy favored in the United States are often just the cheapest and easiest way to treat people who can't afford to pay for expensive rehabilitation. Those who can, he said, often opt for cold turkey approach in private clinics, which is not very different from the Russian way. Though American doctors are readier to provide apparative drugs to suffering patients. In Russia, we have an integrated system, and it's all paid for by the state. In our center, you find all the facilities for detox, psychiatric, and support services and rehabilitation all together under one roof, he boasts. We view treatment as a single continuous process, and we follow each patient through the entire 3-year program. Morozova is one of the system's success stories. She credits its tough love with curing her of her heroin addiction. But once her 3-year program ended, she turned to a linchpin of Western addiction control that has caught on widely in Russia, Narcotics Anonymous. The 12 steps saved my life, she said. So Russia said, you can be an addict over here, but your ass is going cold turkey. Woo, these softies here in America would never be able to handle this, y'all. They would never be able to handle the way Russia deals with their opioid epidemic. But, it kind of gives you insight. They're dealing with a major problem over there in Russia, just like they are dealing with a major one over here. So no matter where you are in the world, this seems to be a problem everywhere. But, that just go to show you, when you start looking, beyond America, you can find out a lot of information on how bad this epidemic really is in other countries. And, it's bad in Australia, too. Australia has a major problem. And New Zealand. So it's all over. But please tell me what you think about Russia's approach to their opioid plague. Please leave your comment and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell. Peace, family.